Welcome to Overthinking, episode 17, where we take fun, interesting ideas, overanalyze them, and run them to their logical conclusions, all in the name of exploration, education, and most importantly, entertainment.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Devin, and we don't...
Dude, this is my line. We don't claim to be experts on any of the topics discussed here today. We simply find these ideas interesting as we hash them out in real time. Get ready to join us on this exciting, fun, and crazy ride to nowhere.
This week, we're on a secret chocolate mountain in a secret chocolate mine with a secret chocolate taste that is oh so. Bet you don't know where I got that from.
I mean, I do because I wrote it, but...
That was a disaster. Okay. Anyway. Oh boy, this is gonna be a interesting episode. It's 17.
For those of you who aren't aware, because this is the first episode you've ever listened to, I'm usually Devin.
Usually half the time he's Devin. Half the time I'm Luke.
Today I'm Luke.
Yeah. We traded skins today.
If you watch this on, if you're watching this on YouTube, ignore the names on the bottom of our screens.
Does it show the names at the bottom of the screens? Not
Generally.
for me. I have
No?
it. I have it disabled.
Oh, okay. Nice.
But anyway, I think on the recording it does actually. But anyway, Devin, we're talking for a long time today. We're gonna be talking for a long time.
Did you just call me Devin?
No, Luke. I mean Luke. Sorry, I was
did.
talking I was talking to myself. Duh.
Oh, okay.
I was talking to myself, Devin.
Okay.
Listen, I'm talking to myself right now. Okay, Devin.
Alright.
We're gonna be talking for a long time today. Right? You need to keep your whistle wet. You need to keep your throat limber. You need to keep your vocal cords saturated with liquid. So what are you drinking today? So Luke, what are you drinking today?
Okay. I actually have a very tall glass of sun tea.
Sun tea?
With like a ton of sugar put in it. Yeah.
Sun tea.
Sun tea.
Sun tea.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just tea?
It's
With
sun
sugar. It's tea with sugar.
Well, it's sun tea with sugar. Yeah.
I don't know what sun tea is.
It's tea that's brewed by the sun.
Oh,
So you can only make it when it's hot out.
interesting. Is that better than normal tea?
It's just different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What about you? What are you drinking?
I have something special. I have this is like 3 weeks in the making. I have made my very own kombucha.
Ooh.
Trademark. Well, I guess no. Now you're getting the credit. No, trademarked me. It is blackberry pear. It is delicious and slightly warm now because it's been out for a while. But I'm all about making my own kombucha now. I am the kombucha master. It's awesome. I love it. I've grown so
Nice.
much since 10 episodes.
Yeah, when it was disgusting and you didn't want to keep drinking it.
I drink all of it. And that was someone else's kombucha. I made this one myself. But anyway, what an intro, Devin. I am not prepared. I was not prepared for the first 5 minutes of this episode.
This is turning out to be our worst episode yet. By far.
Which means it's our best.
Explain.
Because we're talking about things, we need to warm up our brains. And we need to go down into the closet. We need to open the secret hatch door. We need to go into Narnia, go out of Narnia, visit the Wild Witch of the West, unlock her secret chest in the bottom of her ravine. And we need to view our secrets uncovered.
Huh, I usually do that intro. It's weird having you do it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you usually do, huh? I was so confused. Luke, I mean, I don't feel like keeping this up. This is.
You're not doing a good job.
I'm doing a terrible job at it, okay? I'm the one who said I'd be good at it, and I'm failing, and I knew I would, and I just let myself fail. This is ridiculous, Devin. This is ridiculous. Why would anyone listen to us ever? Do you have a secrets uncovered for us today?
I do. Am I Devin again?
You're Devin. Yeah, you're
Okay.
Devin now.
Okay, because I was prepared to get my entire secrets uncovered from third person. But
That's too much work, Devin. We're too tired. It's Sunday.
You're too tired.
I'm too tired.
Anyway, I mean, I could have done it probably through Secrets Uncovered, and I probably would not have been able to do it for the full show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had already figured out exactly how I was going to have to say it. I was going to read it like a script. Anyway, so, yeah, I do have Secrets Uncovered. This last week, I started a new podcast. Fun fact. Actually, Fun Facts with Devin is the name of the podcast.
Hence the name.
Right. And so it's interesting because I've done 3 episodes so far, which it's literally just spontaneously whenever I have an idea in my head, whenever I'm like inspiration strikes, I just do a quick max of 7 minutes, just a quick recording of whatever the thought is, and then I throw it up, and that's the podcast. So there's no posting schedule, there's no content schedule, there's no rhyme or reason to what it's doing. It's kind of like the baby version of this, but even less organized.
Like the infant version,
right? But even less organized. So this is what's interesting though is over the last several months, you and I have been able to build a small following for a new project that we're doing for our business. We have an email list of like 50 people, and so I have a small network that I can reach out to, and I was thinking, it'd be fun to have like a guest on my podcast, right? So I just went and I reached out through this network, and I just threw up a post into a private Facebook group that they're all in, and I have 15 people signed up to be guests, and I'm like, wow, I don't want that many guests. Because I don't want it to be a guest podcast. I don't want that to be all that I do, and that just means I have to make a lot more podcasts.
Now you have to. So like, if you're like, I want to guess like every like 4 episodes, then you're like, that is 4 times 15, and like every week, that's a year. Yeah, that's a year of guests. You have a year. You have a year of guests booked.
My Secrets Uncovered is, as a marketer, you always want big numbers, but sometimes for certain things, think it through a little bit, and maybe you don't do things publicly, and maybe you invite people individually.
I mean, I just love, the whole situation was so funny when you told me. I'm just like you started this podcast out of like, you're just like, you're like, should I do it? I'm like, yes, do it. I'm like, you signed up, you created your first post. You got some listeners, then you're like, I want to get some guests. I was like, go for it. And then you got some guests, and then you're like, I have too many guests. And it just happened all within like a few days of each other.
Yeah, yep. I started the podcast. 4 days later, I had 3 episodes up, and that was when I messaged and asked people if they wanted to be guests. Which is funny because I have this templated message that I'm sending everybody who says that they're interested, which is basically like, I'm like, we have 3 episodes out and we've had 9 total downloads, so we're absolutely blowing up and this is great for your brand.
Yeah.
And I don't even think half the people that I said that to realized that was meant as a joke. I think they are either clueless or they think I am. But
the thing is, the general public doesn't really know anything about podcast statistics.
True.
Because they're hidden. Because podcast statistics are not visible.
Yeah, and most podcasters aren't public about how well they do. Right.
Some of them are, like Joe Rogan. I think he said something around like hitting like 100,000 per.
I'll be public about mine. My new podcast that just came out. I'll be very public about it. We have 9 downloads so far, and everyone who follows this podcast who hasn't listened to mine, shame on you. Because we don't want you here, but I do want you there.
I have 10,000 downloads on mine, but whatever.
So mine's a week old.
Yeah, and mine is older than yours. So my podcast can beat up your podcast. But yeah,
my podcast followers can beat up your podcast followers.
Nah, I doubt it. My podcast followers are buff.
Nah.
Strong.
Nah.
Your podcast followers are weak of mind and will.
You're my only follower, Luke.
No, Devin, this is the roast of Luke Maxwell. I've long said that I wanted a roast, and this is happening against my will right now. I didn't plan for being roasted today. we were.
I mean,
we
that's
were,
why I'm here, right? That's what I do.
It's true. It is true. We were recording something earlier before this, and I
That
just
you should
got
go check out.
lambasted. Lambasted.
Basted?
Lambasted. Lambasted. No, lambasted.
What does that mean?
You got like lambasted. It means like you got bombarded, like lambasted. To lambast, to criticize someone harshly. I thought it means to like blow things up. I was thinking of like, interesting. What? Really? To beat or thrash. Huh. Interesting. I guess I technically did get lambasted. Nah, yeah, I do. Actually, okay. I actually have my secrets uncovered and my main topic are kind of like divided. Like they're pretty even in terms of like content wise. Maybe depending on how passionate I get about the second one, because I'm gonna get passionate about my topic today. But I wanted to. I remember I was looking through a memory. A picture came up of this concert I went to 6 years ago. I want to say it was a small band, and their whole tour was around it was basically like promoting mental health and things like that. And so we actually got backstage to talk to the band beforehand, which is really funny because I barely knew them. But there's two main singers and then and they're brothers, right? And I see the one guy come up. He's like, "Oh, he's talking to us. He's really cool. He's chill. He's hanging out." And then he's like, "Yeah, sorry, my brother, who's actually his name is Luke, it wasn't. He's like, yeah, he's not here. He's with his family right now. His wife needed him because she's pregnant." And I was like, my first reaction was like, he just left the tour. I'm like, he knew he had a family before he left for touring. I'm like, you went to tour knowing that you had a pregnant wife behind. I'm like, you made this decision to do this, right? And so like that was my initial. Obviously, I didn't say anything like that. And of course, like he's like, yeah, his pregnant. His wife just said that she needed him, and he went. I'm like, you know what? It's your decision to make. You know, we don't, us fans, like we technically paid to see both of you, but sure. And the songs a lot of them are duets. So like, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I wasn't that upset. Like in the moment, I was just kind of like confused. I'm like, oh, he like just left. I've never, seen an artist do that before. And so we're in, and that's like the point, right? But we're in the concert, right? And he goes, yeah, I know all of you know. He's like, Luke isn't here, his brother, right? Isn't here. And he's like, you know what? Because we put family first, and he needed to be with his family. And everyone just starts cheering, right? And I'm like, they're cheering to not getting what they paid for. Yeah, to literally just, and the concert. So I mean, it was cool. Like it was obviously I liked the music, whatever. Like it was a cool concert. But a lot of the songs feature his voice very heavily. Mm-hmm. And so they had to bring on like one of the band members to try to cover for him. And he's not nearly as good of a singer as him. So he was struggling so hard. And I felt bad for the guy because he didn't prepare like to take over the lead singer, right? And so, but then I realized, I was thinking about that. I'm like, that started the tangential thought of like, it's so easy to manipulate an audience. And I was thinking about, I'm like, then I started thinking about, okay, and I started thinking about politics, and I started thinking about companies, and I started thinking about PR, and then I just started this rabbit hole, like train of thought of thinking about different ways that public figures manipulate us, and we're happy they did. And so that's what I was just like, it was just a mind-boggling thought for me today, to be like, you can, if you know how to frame something bad, people will cheer for it. Like and that thought, like, and almost anything, like someone, even if it's like someone dies, like they look what they did, like they lived a great life, and that, you know what, they lived a full life, and now, depending on who they are, you could say they're reaping their reward, you could say now they're laid to rest, right? And you can have people cheer for someone dying, Obviously, it depends on the person and what they did, of course, But it's just so interesting to me to how, especially a live audience, is so easily swayed. And all you need to do, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, that all you need is 10% of a group to be extremist for them to swing the group. And not saying to swing the group to be extremist, but to swing the group in their direction. Like, that's how little willpower the average person has, is that we're willing to go away. And all of us, like, that's true for even like you and me. We think that we're like, we think that we're better. We think that we're strong, We're like, no, we're just as easy influenced, but by different things. Like things.
I don't think that I'm like better at all, actually.
Oh,
I'm
well,
I'm consistently
I
fascinated
do.
at the way that I'm manipulated.
Yeah.
So that's the distinction, is I actually study it and like I recognize it, and to the point, it's a slight rabbit trail, but there's a local networking group that I attend that's really, really well done. It's actually, with no close second, the absolute best networking group I've ever been to. And the coordinator puts it on like performance, and he does everything very, very intentionally and deliberately. The first time that I ever went to a meeting, I was sitting there and I was analyzing what he was doing, because it was so impressive that like I was trying to like I was picking apart his funnel basically.
Yeah.
And I'm and I'm noting the things that are happening. Well, little do I know that after I end up joining, he actually does a free training for anybody who's in his networking group. That's the whole point of the training, is he calls it a boot camp. It's meant to teach people how to optimize any networking group, right? To get the most out of it. So I go to this, and in it, he explains the exact process that he used and the exact points that he does exactly what he needs to get it to work as good as it possibly can. But there's two things he did that were really impressive. One is just like that transparency.
Right.
But it's actually, he did it the same way that I do it, which is a sharing of view sales tactic. Because he explains this.
Yep.
He explains in detail everything that he does. And I was shocked that there were actually a few things that I didn't notice the first time I was there. I was like, I didn't see that one.
Right.
But that makes a lot of sense. So I learned some stuff. And then right after he shares the view, he points out, he's like, and at this point, this is the point when it's the most crucial for everything that I'm doing. Things have to go this way. And it's the point when people do shout outs. And he's like, so if there's only one shout out, assume they're going to mess it up. They're going to ruin it. They're going to destroy the flow of the meeting, and we're not going to get the benefit out of the meeting. So if only one person raises their hand for a shout out, raise your hand. And he starts creating this like narrative of like how you have to do things for his networking group that gets him paid. Like,
that's amazing.
As one of his paying clients, you have to do things for his networking group that gets him paid.
That's amazing.
And he does it in such a way that and it's beautiful and was elegant. And that's not the only time he did it either in that workshop, because there's another point where he's just talking about attendance, and he does a really good like heart grab on at any given point in time in any group, roughly half the people have pulled their Achilles tendon. It's an analogy he uses. Like half the people in a large group at any point in time have something terrible that they're going through. If you're not going through something terrible, you need to be here for them. If you are going through something terrible, there are people here for you. So he's like convincing people that attendance is important no matter what's going on. Right. It's either for you or for someone else, but that's how you make the community grow. And it's just absolutely brilliant. And I mean, as a result, they're not public about their income, but it's pretty easy to do the math. They're making tens of thousands of dollars a month off of a networking group, on top of their actual business. Right. Which is impressive. Right. Also, and I didn't bring it up, but even your point of how easy it is to sway an audience and to get people to cheer for something terrible. I mean, that's like basically World War II, right? Yeah, I mean that's basically what I was thinking of. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You frame it in a different way. You frame it as, oh, we're being liberated. We're being free. We're raising ourselves up because we're proud of our own nation and heritage. Like, right? Mm-hmm. Well, and that was the framing that Hitler used was Germany had caused and lost World War I, right? And as a result, they had been effectively on a global scale punished for World War I, right? In a way that was meant to make sure that they would never become a superpower again. That was
Right.
the verdict that the nations tried to create, was a situation where Germany could never be powerful, right? And Germany, culturally speaking, is a very proud nation comparatively to most.
Right.
Right? So Hitler comes up and he's like, how dare they do this to us?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah, how dare them?
Yeah.
And he's like, we're better than this. Yeah, we are better than that.
Right.
And he creates this narrative that's very, very easy to appeal to the national identity that had just been like basically slapped in the face.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's why when you want to attack somebody effectively, you do not do a blunt force attack, because they'll use that as whatever. I mean, either physically or metaphorically. You know, they'll use that to their advantage. They'll use that to encourage themselves and others to fight back. It's so fascinating. It was just mind blowing to me, and especially like coming from a background of public speaking, I know exactly the words to use. I know the phrases that get people, cheering and like things like that. And that's why I hate the term motivational speaker, because I'm like, it's so easy to be the motivational speaker. You need to have a nice voice and an energy, and you need to say certain phrases, and that's it. Like, that's it. You don't need to have experience or any kind of meaningful message.
Right. I know Tony Robbins hates the notion of motivational speakers because motivation isn't long lasting.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
People call me a motivational. People are like, oh, I see you're a motivational speaker. I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation right now. So sure, yeah.
That's like this is me saying, if I actually cared about that, I see you're a motivational speaker. Where? Because it's not anything that I put out.
Yeah.
I have never put out anything that says I'm a motivational speaker.
You look
through.
So
who told you that?
Yeah. Look through any of my websites, my content,
all of my social media.
You won't find a single reference to myself as a motivational speaker.
That would be me. I would just be like, where did you say I'm a motivational speaker? Because I need to
go
talk to that person.
They're like, oh, your website, you speak. I'm like, yeah, I speak, but I'm not a motivational speaker.
Right. Steve Jobs used to speak. He wasn't a motivational speaker. He spoke about a product.
Right, exactly. I was recently telling a friend who I met with yesterday, I was like, you need to watch Steve Jobs' original pitch, presentation of the iPhone. I'm like, it'll blow you away. Like, if you want to learn about, because you want interested in like product development and product like product stuff, right? And I was like, you need to watch that. I'm like, that will absolutely blow you away when it comes to thinking about products and thinking about how to market products. I
saw a really interesting article about Apple recently that it was doing a side-by-side comparison of what I don't remember the years, but whenever they first came out with the iPod, and then when they first came out with the smartwatches, the iWatch, right? And so there was a side-by-side comparison of their marketing and what, like, the example they used as their cover, their like thumbnail grab, right? Was I was two actual billboards, and in the description they had their locations. Billboard for the iPod was all white billboard with the iPod in the middle of it, and a text off to the left that said 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
And then for the iWatch, or whatever they call it, right?
Apple Watch.
Same exact outline. Pure white canvas, the watch in the middle, the text off to the left that says millions of songs on your wrist.
Yeah.
Like, they've changed nothing about their marketing because they don't need to. They got it right.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they blew up. Because they got the marketing right in the first place. But anyway, Devin.
Yes.
We've warmed up our brains. If anything, I've dumbed down mine.
No, you didn't even know who you were when we started. You're doing better.
That's just so sobering. That just describes my day. Devin, you want to get into your topics today? I hear you.
Sure. I have a fun one.
You have a fun one.
Yeah, I don't know if you're ready for it because you don't seem like you're.
Oh boy. Okay. But... Wait. Let me.
I'm gonna teach you some stuff about some logic, Luke.
Oh boy. Okay. my
terms.
brain just tried to do a shutdown to protect myself, but I caught the switch in time.
All right. So
let's do it.
I'm gonna teach you some terms and how they're used in logic, and then I'll give you some funny examples of what they actually mean. Because without the examples, you'll think that you get it, but you won't.
Yes. Okay. That is very true.
Okay. So talking about logical structure, and I'm gonna use the example for all of these of like a syllogism. Okay. A syllogism is a logical argument that is made in the following form: premise 1, premise 2, conclusion that follows by deductive logic.
Okay.
So the most common example that I know of for syllogism is premise 1 is all men are mortal.
Mhm.
Premise 2 is that Isaac Newton is a man. Conclusion, Isaac Newton is mortal.
Yeah.
Right. So it follows by necessity from the premises. That's a syllogism. That's probably the example that I'm going to try to adhere to is we'll just be dissecting the syllogism. Okay. So first, I'm going to do this by asking you what you think, and you're going to do your very best to define some terms, and I'm going to tell you you're wrong. That's the plan.
All right.
What do you think it means to say that my argument is valid?
It means that the no, wait, I actually know the difference.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Right. Valid means that the premises lead to the conclusion, but doesn't necessarily mean that the premises are true.
Okay. So
Right?
you'd say it's valid if the conclusion follows by logical necessity from the premises.
Yes.
Okay. That is correct. So what does it mean? What does it
Go
mean
on.
to say that an argument is true?
That means that the premises are true. Right? No?
Nope. It literally means absolutely nothing to say that an argument is true. It's a
Wait, really?
nonsensical statement.
Oh,
An
yeah,
ar-
because, yeah, okay. That makes sense.
An argument cannot be true. So
All right.
with that being said, what can be true?
Nothing.
The premises, the propositions.
The premises can be true?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So the propositions. By the way, a proposition is not an argument, right?
Right.
So if all men are mortal,
Mm-hmm.
that is not an argument.
Okay.
It's a proposition. Right. It's a premise. On its own, it means nothing. It's a single standalone statement, and as with any statement, every statement has something that you would call a truth value to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It has a truth value of 0 or a truth value of 1, depending on if it's true or false. Right?
Right.
Every statement has a truth value. The statement I just made has a truth value. Every statement has a truth value. The truth value of that statement is it's true. So
Right.
it's a truth value of 1.
Okay.
Okay. So if I were to say every man is mortal,
Mm-hmm.
there's a truth value associated with that proposition, with that premise. And I'm using those words simultaneously so that you can tell that I use them interchangeably.
Okay.
Right? If it's in the context of a syllogism, then it's a premise, and on its own, it's a proposition. So I use them interchangeably because they're effectively interchangeable.
Okay.
So all men are mortal.
Okay.
That is a true statement.
Got it.
Okay. So the propositions have truth values.
Okay.
Likewise, I said it means nothing to say that an argument is true, right?
Right.
Like that's a nonsensical statement. It's also a nonsensical statement to say that the proposition all men are mortal is valid.
Right.
No,
'Cause
it's
we
not.
don't know.
Arguments are valid.
Oh.
Propositions cannot be valid. They can be true or false.
All right. But
And
how do we assign whether something is true or false?
So, I mean, the interesting point there. It doesn't matter if we know whether or not it's true or false for it to be true or false.
Okay, so it's more.
Right.
So it's not necessarily
So
like.
there's certain things that we can say that we know are true, and there's certain things we can say that we know are false, and there's certain things that we say that we don't know if it's true or false, but we know it's either true or false. So if I say Lake Superior is the largest of the Great Lakes,
Yeah.
that is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Period. Right? If I say Lake Superior is the smallest of the Great Lakes, that is objectively false.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all the other Great Lakes fit
Right.
inside Lake Superior.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's objectively false, right?
If you say Lake Superior is the biggest lake, then I mean that's probably not true. But there could be other lakes that we haven't discovered, so it's true for now.
Well, Sure, maybe.
If it is, if it is, like,
Sure.
let's just pretend. I don't know the biggest lake in the world.
If I say the Loch Ness monster doesn't exist,
Right.
we don't
That's
know
a
the
better
value.
example.
We don't know the value of that statement.
Right.
Right. We know that we have some evidence to support that it does. That evidence is fairly weak. We don't have obnoxious evidence to support that it does, but we also haven't drained the lake, so we don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's effectively what we would have to do is drain Lake Loch Ness, which good luck.
Yeah. Right. Just pull the plug. That's a problem.
Right. So
Tornado.
An argument can be valid or invalid.
Right.
But it cannot be true or false.
Okay.
Likewise, a proposition can be true or false, but it cannot be valid or invalid.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean anything if I say my proposition is valid. It doesn't make sense. So now, what you tried to say when I said what does it mean to say that an argument is true is a different term for what the definition you gave. So if my argument is logically valid and the premises are both true, then my argument is sound.
Sound. Okay, I was waiting for that. Right. Okay, got it. Yep.
So sound is the term that means that it's logically proper. Both my premises are true, and if I'm gonna make a syllogism about syllogisms. If both of the premises are true, and the argument is logically sound or is logically valid, then it is a sound argument and therefore an accurate argument. Okay. If my conclusion follows from necessity from two true statements, then my conclusion is also true.
Okay.
So that's the logical structure there. And you could even be really, really strong about this. You could say that an argument is sound if and only if it is a valid argument and both of its premises are true. And an if and only if statement in logic, by the way, means it's a statement that goes both ways. Right. So, which are incredibly strong assertions to make generally. You don't, in mathematics, you use if and only ifs a lot. In logic and philosophy, you almost never use them. Oh, really? Okay. Because it's really, really hard to get to a point of certainty that that's a valid statement to say if and only if. But so the example for that is most logical statements and most logical arguments actually follow the every rectangle is a square, not every square is a rectangle. Yeah. Like it doesn't go both ways. Right. And that's how most arguments end up working, where you can only say if. So like if it is a rectangle, if it is a square, then it is a rectangle. Yeah. Right? You cannot invert that, right? So you only get one if. If I say if and only if and only if it has 4 sides of equal length and 4 right angles, then it is a square.
Got it. Okay.
So then it goes both ways, right?
Right.
All right. So now I have given you some edumacation. I'm gonna read some syllogisms to you, and I want you to try to figure out if they're valid and if they're sound. And if they're not sound, then we can talk about their premises and see if their premises have proper truth.
Okay. I'm listening. My eyes are closed. I'm absorbing your words into my ears.
All right. All mammals have lungs. Premise 1. Premise 2. All whales are mammals. Conclusion. Therefore, all whales have lungs.
Okay. That's valid. Wait. You said all whales. Yeah, all whales have lungs. Okay, so that's a valid argument. As far as I know, that's a true statement. So I would say, that's a true argument.
It is not a true argument because there's no such thing as a true argument.
Sorry, no, sound. Sorry, sound.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. It is a sound argument. It's valid in that if its premises are true, that all mammals have lungs and whales are mammals. Yeah. Therefore, whales have lungs. Right. That's logically coherent. Right. Now, and then it's also just they're all actually true facts.
Exactly.
A defining point of.
I was trying to think. I'm like,
lungs.
do dolphins? And then I was thinking, like, do whales have lungs? And then I'm like, wait, no, they breathe air. They don't. Fish breathe.
Yep. It is a defining point of mammals that we have lungs. So
Interesting.
like it's true by definition.
Interesting. Oh.
Yeah. Which is just like the example I gave of the square before. The if
Right,
and only
exactly.
if. It's true because that is its definition.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an equal
All
sign.
right. Good job with that one. All right. I'm gonna give you a tougher one now.
Okay, let's do it.
Tougher. These actually get progressively harder.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Okay. All four-legged creatures have wings.
Okay.
All spiders have exactly 4 legs. Therefore, all spiders have wings.
Okay, so the argument, if the premises are true, then the argument is valid. However, the premises I know are not true.
Good. So it's a valid argument,
Right.
and it is a valid argument. You said
Yeah, it's a valid argument. Sorry,
if the premises are true, it's valid. No, it is valid.
It is valid. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Right.
it is valid. Yeah.
Because the validity of an argument has nothing to do with the value of its premises.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right. But then you are correct that all four-legged creatures have wings.
Not
No.
true.
Duh.
And spiders.
All
do
spiders
not
have 4 legs. Duh.
not-
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
So many softballs. Let's get this.
If I owned all the gold in Fort Knox, then I would be wealthy. I do not own all the gold in Fort Knox. Therefore, I am not wealthy.
Okay. No, that's not a valid argument.
No?
Because wait, I'm trying to be logical about this and not just be a Luke. Spit take.
Don't Luke it up.
The first premise is true. Like, if you own all of gold in Fort Knox, then you would be wealthy. That is a true statement. You do not own all the gold in Fort Knox. That is also a true statement. But that does not lead by necessity to the fact that you are not wealthy. That's
Good.
not a necessary outcome.
That was a good way of wording that.
Thank you. I
which
thought
is
very hard about it.
Yeah. This is another example of the example what I said earlier. Most if statements are not if and only ifs.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Because there are obviously a million other ways that I could become wealthy, right?
Right.
And if you're not sure about it, we can always do something that would be like pulling this to the extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so use examples that should, if the logic works, it works in all cases. This is actually something I do in debates and in like just high intensity conversations all the time.
Yeah.
If your logic is sound no matter where it's used.
Right.
If your argument is valid, it's valid no matter where it's used, regardless if it's sound or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's pull it to an extreme. If Bill Gates owned all the gold in Fort Knox, then Bill Gates would be wealthy. Bill Gates does not own all the gold in Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Therefore, Bill Gates is not wealthy.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that's false. I know
Right.
I know my conclusion is false, right?
Right. Exactly.
So, and I know that those statements were both true.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know the argument itself must be invalid.
Right.
Right.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Cool.
glad. I don't know about myself.
You're doing really good. Proud of
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Uh-huh.
All right.
I thought a little too hard on that first one, but we're good. We're powering through.
All right. I'm gonna
Okay.
give you 3 more, and
Okay.
then I got a bonus one
Ooh.
because it's like historic and fun.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right. All fish are mammals.
Yeah.
All whales are fish. Therefore, all whales are mammals.
You said therefore all whales are mammals.
Mm-hmm.
So the it's no, you can't. There's not a true outcome. So the premises are false. The argument is valid though. Right? Wait.
You are correct. The premises are false. The argument is valid, but it is a true conclusion.
Exactly.
So this is a really interesting one.
Yeah. Oh
Right?
yeah. So the
All
conclusion.
fish are
That's what I was
mammals.
trying
No,
to. Yeah.
Not all fish are mammals. Like, we know that's not true. And actually,
Right.
all whales are fish is also not true because fish by definition are not mammals.
Right.
Whales by definition are not fish.
Right.
So those are 2 false premises that work together to give us a true conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But the argument is insanely invalid. Or I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The argument is valid. The premises are false. The conclusion is true.
It's true. Right.
It's a really interesting
Yeah.
argument because it's like you were valid
And the conclusion was true, but
and
the premises
you
were
got a
wrong.
conclusion, right? So this is actually a good example to use to point out the notion of the fallacy of what's the name of the fallacy? It's
False premises.
It's the genetic fallacy. There we go. This is a good example, like a counterexample to the genetic fallacy, where the genetic fallacy tries to make the argument that because where you started was wrong, your conclusion must be wrong too.
Oh,
so,
interesting. Okay.
Like I see this one in like religious debates where well, the only reason that we have religion is because people were afraid of nature.
Mm-hmm.
If I grant you that doesn't mean my religion is false.
Right.
Right? Who cares why I came up with it? If I flip a coin and I say, oh, the coin landed on heads, there must be someone in the bathroom.
Yeah.
My reasoning is whack. But
Yeah.
there might be someone in the bathroom.
I mean, we were in the bathroom 3 episodes ago.
Right. So, and this is a good example to point that out. Like,
Right.
No, like your premises can be false, but your conclusion can still be true,
Right.
and your reasoning can still be valid,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Which is really dangerous in the hands of someone who does not understand how to reason.
Right? Like you. All right.
I mean, I'm 3 for 3 so far. So
you
4
are.
for 4.
You're crushing it.
4 for
I think
4.
4 for 4. Yeah.
4 for 4.
Yep.
All right.
All right. All
Next.
mammals have wings. All whales have wings. Therefore, all whales are mammals.
Okay, this is another case where the result is true, but the first one you said all mammals have wings. That premise is false.
True.
You said all whales. Wait, you said all whales have wings.
Mm-hmm.
That's false as well. And also, wait. So you said all mammals have wings, and you said all whales have wings. So therefore, whales are a mammal. That's not a valid argument.
Good job. Invalid argument. 2 false premises.
End of
true conclusion.
True conclusion. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. That's actually the one I thought you were most likely to think was valid, to be honest.
Well, I was confused. I have to remember the order of which you put the words because I messed that up a lot. I'm like, wait, and which one did you say first? I just remember that you said these words. Okay, cool. 5 for 5.
All right, last one. I think you should get this one.
Okay.
I think this one's easy.
I'm thinking really hard.
Okay. All mammals have wings. All whales have wings. Therefore, all mammals are whales.
Okay. You're trying to trick me. Okay. The first, again, we have 2 false premises. You said, wait, what was the conclusion?
The conclusion is, therefore, all mammals are whales.
Oh, well, that's a false. Oh, that's okay. Well, it's a false result.
Mm-hmm. False conclusion.
False conclusion. Sorry. Yeah. And then you said, wait, all birds have wings. Oh, sorry. All mammals have wings. All whales have wings. So therefore, all mammals are whales.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, let me think of my circle. My 2 circles encompassing each other. All mammals have wings. This is no. Anyone listening is just like Luke. Have wings. All whales have wings. Therefore, that's invalid because there could be things outside of. Okay, I thought you were trying to trick me. I'm basically just like I'm like Devin. I'm just suspicious. So yeah, it's the false. It's an invalid argument because there can be things that have wings that are not whales.
Yep.
Well, there can be things that are
false propositions are premises.
Yeah.
False conclusion.
An invalid argument.
All in one.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was really expecting a twist.
No, I told you I thought this one was easy.
Well, no, that's the problem. I thought you were trying to trick me.
Okay, so this is really, really interesting. Okay, because this is my last bonus one. Okay.
All right.
This was Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
1858. He's debating Stephen Douglas on the Dred Scott decision made by the Supreme Court.
Okay.
I give that background for people who care about it. I don't know what Dred Scott was, but this is.
I learned about it in history. I don't remember what it was.
This is a quote from Lincoln, and I don't think I'm going to read all of it. Maybe I will, but maybe I'll parse it. I think it follows, and I submit to the consideration of men capable of arguing, whether as I stated in syllogistic form, the argument has any fault in it. Nothing in the Constitution or laws of any state can destroy a right distinctly and expressly affirmed in the Constitution of the United States. Premise 1.
Okay.
Premise 2. The right of property in a slave is distinctly and expressly affirmed in the Constitution of the United States. Conclusion. Therefore, nothing in the Constitution or laws of any state can destroy the right of property in a slave. For the slight background needed, the Dred Scott decision was basically the Supreme Court ruled that if a slave escapes from their masters in a southern state and goes to a northern state, that the northern state would be required to give that slave back to their southern state masters.
I just looked
that's what the Supreme Court ruled, and Lincoln was fighting against that, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the syllogism that he presented of what the Supreme Court did. Right? He says nothing in the Constitution. No, so I'll layman's it a little bit. Nothing in any state law can destroy any right that's given by the Constitution of the United States.
Okay.
He's like, that's premise 1. Premise 2. The right of property of a slave is affirmed in the Constitution of the United States.
Okay.
Conclusion. No state can pass a law that destroys the right to own a slave.
I mean, that's a valid argument, right?
It is a valid argument. Okay? So this is one where I'll continue. This is what Lincoln said in response. Presents the syllogism and then continues. I believe that no fault can be pointed out in this argument. Assuming the truth of the premises, the conclusion, so far as I have capacity at all to understand it, follows inevitably. So that's his way of saying this is a logically valid argument. There is a fault in it as I think. Okay, there is a fault in it as I think. But the fault is not in the reasoning. The falsehood, in fact, is a fault of the premises. I believe that the right of property in a slave is not distinctly expressly affirmed in the Constitution. I believe that the Supreme Court and the advocates of the decision may search in vain for the place in the Constitution where the right of property in a slave is distinctly and expressly affirmed. I say, therefore, that I think one of the premises is not true.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that. I'm like, where in the Constitution? I mean, it says like it's the freedom, liberty, and ownership of property.
So the argument in the debate was the Constitution expressly talks about property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I mean, Stephen Douglas was trying to extend that in the Supreme Court even, that slaves were property. And that was actually the true debate was slaves are not property and the Constitution does not say that they are.
Right, exactly.
But, so that's just like a real life example of a logically valid argument that comes to a false conclusion because one of its premises is false.
Mm-hmm.
And then it, like, a very important historical one, right? Like, that mattered. That was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
Right. It is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, and I think
Lincoln's brilliant.
Well, yeah, I mean,
in the way he articulated that, like as best as I can tell, this does look valid.
Yeah, I mean, he was a lawyer. I think I see like using this, really in I mean modern times. I definitely see that in a lot of. I definitely see the use in this way of thinking in a lot of like ad hominem attacks, being like, all you people are this way, all you people are this way, blah blah blah, and like I see that I'm like, no, just logically that's untrue, and if you look at the world, that's blatantly untrue. You know, I'm like on no point.
Well, I mean, as a marketer too, like. As a general rule, stereotypes are reasonably accurate. That's why they exist.
Yeah.
They're reasonably accurate for the majority of the population.
but the majority doesn't.
Is not
It's not
equivalent
to
to entire, right?
yeah. Like there's stereotypes for a reason because people tend to act in certain ways based on what culture they live in, and so it's yeah. So it's a little funny. Like I'm like, no, you're just wrong. Like you can say like most. Like if you say most, then we can have that debate about most, and you could bring up a statistic because that's what you would need. But if you make a claim of like, I'll put it this way, because like they're from a certain place,
Right.
or
Then
they're
you need to be very, very specific about the claim. You could still be inherently valid to say, barred any genetic mutation or accidents, all people have 2 legs. Sure,
Right.
but that's not meaningful, right?
yeah. Well, I
Even
mean,
though
the
you're not
average
wrong.
person has like 1.9 legs, so we're all above average when it comes to leg count.
Woohoo.
Isn't that funny though?
Thank you for those genetic issues and those like accidents that
Yeah.
I referenced. Thank you
Yeah.
for those guys. They make me above average. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, this is another one. This is I don't know if we mentioned this in our paradox episode or not, but
I wouldn't remember.
You, on average, your friends have more friends than you.
Oh, I have heard this one. It's been a while. I think that goes along with like the birthday thing on like how likely it is that there's a person that has the same birthday in your room. I think I was reading along like there was an article like
I don't
this
know
girl-
about that one, but
It's
so the general rule, most people aren't incredibly outgoing, but
right.
most people are friends with somebody who is, because that individual is incredibly
Right.
outgoing, so they befriended you and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
That person skews the data up. They're an outlier.
Right, exactly.
And everybody has a friend like that in their friend group.
Yeah.
So the average person's friend have more friends than that.
Yeah. That's
right?
funny.
That the exceptional people who are friends with everybody.
I
For
found it.
me, I'm on the very extreme that all of my friends have more friends than me.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yep.
I don't have friends. So that's like all 3 of you have more friends than me. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's called but yeah, it's called a birthday problem. So
if
they're
you
really
get 23 people in a room, the odds that 2 or more of them share a birthday are like above 86%.
right, which is ridiculous, right? Isn't that it? Just like it's so weird because you're like, that doesn't make sense on its face, and they have the math here, and it's like actually.
And Luke's like, I don't understand this math.
I know. I mean, I could eventually. I haven't done calculus in 6 years.
I was playing a game with a group of friends last night that in the middle of it had like
Devin, I don't have
Had us-
friends. So last night I was at a party.
I said I have 3 friends, right?
Oh, you did? Oh, I heard you say I don't have any friends.
So I said I have 3 friends.
Okay.
So I was with a group of people that one of my friends invited me to. Like, if you want to be accurate, and it was actually over Zoom, and they were.
Okay.
I think we were in 4 different states between the group.
Okay.
But we were playing Jackbox.
Oh, nice.
So there's a one point there's a mini game where I went up actually against my friend who we were just supposed to do mental math as fast as we could.
Oh yeah.
And then pick the answer.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, having gone through it, that I would have been much faster if I was able to type in my answer, personally, because I had to pick.
Oh
options.
yeah. Yes.
But-
that's.
So I ended up in the time I ended up getting 16 correct. He ended up getting 20 correct, right?
Mhm.
And so he points out, he's like, I thought you were a math teacher. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I am. And if you would like to like see who can solve a calculus problem faster, then there might be a point to it. Just being a math teacher doesn't mean I'm fast at mental math.
Yeah.
It
is
means
funny-
that I can explain the mental math I did. There's a
Right.
difference there.
And it's funny because I've had the same problem with that same game, of like I'm like, oh, it's this. Where is it? And then
Yep.
you're like, oh, here. Wait, no, that's a negative. Wait, no, that's a positive. Wait, is that an
Yep.
8 or a 0? And
Yep.
it takes up so much time just to find the right box, which is part of the game, which annoys me.
Right. There's
Um,
also this other element too. I don't know if you get this, but personally, like, I know for a fact I would do better at that game if I was like playing with people who were all math teachers, because
Yeah.
I know that the person I'm up against knows I'm a math teacher, and now all of a sudden there's pressure. And
Yeah.
I've noticed with myself my entire life, when it comes to the games that genuinely don't matter, Pressure is a negative on me. Like I don't use it well.
Yep.
So
I think in general people don't use it well.
Well, and that's just the point, though, is like that wording is important because
Yeah.
it can be a good thing if you use it appropriately, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the distinction between distress and eustress is your own mindset on what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And distress is harmful to your body and makes you perform worse, and eustress is not harmful to your body and increases your performance.
Yeah.
So
yeah, look at you remembering I think that's like Psych 101, right?
I did not learn that in Psych 101.
Oh, you didn't?
I learned that in a class called Human Stress.
Oh.
Although I will be teaching a psychology class, so maybe I can talk about stress.
Yeah,
But
I think I learned that in stress.
I talk about that quite a bit, though. It's very forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
It matters to me on some level.
Yeah, just like stresses.
It's interesting to me that I haven't talked about it on the podcast yet.
I know, right? I forgot. Honestly, I forgot that existed. You're bringing back some memories from class. But anyway, dude, that was it. That was fun. Like, let's do that again. Like, same thing with the riddles. I like being challenged.
Again. Okay, I will teach you about syllogisms again.
I meant have the
challenge.
I mean, honestly, you'll probably have to.
We'll do that every 17 episodes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely won't remember it if it's every 17. Oh, no, I think I will, because I think I already knew like the basics of it.
You did really well.
Yeah, thing. It's a particular wording of things, being like, wait, no, that's valid. That's true. And having like that memorization of the certain words, because
the distinction between validity and soundness is the hardest one for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Sound, I just picture them as circles. Sound is the big circle.
So,
no, sorry. Yeah, sound's the big circle. Validity is the circle in the middle, and then truth is a circle in the middle of validity.
That's a really interesting mental image if it works for you, because truth has nothing to do with validity.
No, I know it doesn't, but that's how I remember.
I mean, if that works for you, it's just impressive is all I'm saying.
I mean, who knows what you... If I described everything that went on in my mind, you'd just be like, that works for you?
So the issue for me is actually, it's really just what is common nomenclature.
Okay.
Because I say it so frequently when I'm having conversations with people, I say, "Oh yeah, that's valid."
Right.
Like, and you're like, whether it's validating their emotions or validating what they just said, I use the word "that's valid" effectively to mean I agree with you.
Right. Exactly.
Really, if I was to be proper with my word choice, I should be saying, "I think that's sound." Right.
Yeah. But we don't talk like that.
Right. So then when I go and I'm trying to talk about logical structures, that's why validity and soundness is hard for me.
Yeah.
Because I commonly use "that's valid" in a way of saying I agree fully.
Do you think that, and I have no knowledge of historical language changes. Very minimal knowledge. But do you think that's a reason why we have a hard time forming, like, being logical? It's because our language evolved past, like, when we first defined logic?
No. So, I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. The reason that I think, and maybe the best example is the word or. When we're talking in a rigid logical construct, we have to use rigid definitions of terms.
Right.
And we have to be very, very clear, and everyone needs to agree on those rigid definitions.
Right. For
the conversation to happen. And so which is different than how we use things casually. If you ever do this,
okay.
If you ever have a conversation where you ask somebody something to the effect of, "Do you want a Pepsi or do you want water?" If you ever ask a question like that, an either or question, right? Do you want this or this? And the person responds yes, they probably took a class on logic.
Okay.
Because logically, the way that the word "or" works is more this, or both. So if I want either of those things or both of those things, then yes is a valid and sound response. Logic.
Interesting.
Which is not the way that we use it commonly.
Right.
So and that's why it's effectively whenever someone actually responds by saying yes, in their own mind, they mean it as a joke that they know you won't get, but it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
And I say this because I do it, and so do all the math teachers that I work with. Because we all have.
Or they're just mean it as a joke, and they don't realize the actual deeper meaning behind it.
Not generally. Like, by and large, they're going to have that background.
Yeah.
So that's just, I think it's because the actual, the field of logic requires stricter definitions than any casual conversation does.
Right.
So we define things sharper,
Mm-hmm.
and we hold them more rigidly. And in normal conversations and normal interactions, which what 98% of us experience 98% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
that's not only not needed, but it's not helpful.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's what makes it hard to actually put on a logician's hat, because now the words mean way more. And actually, that's also why the right people, when you watch them do debates, can tear apart their opponent, because their opponent isn't being rigid with their language.
Yeah.
Because it's not natural for us to do that.
Right.
And anytime you see that happen, actually, the person who appears to be winning because they're tearing apart the language is also doing so in a way that's not intellectually honest.
Right. Exactly.
Because they know what the person meant, and they're taking advantage of the fact that they didn't say it well.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so I don't think it has anything to do with the development of language. And I could be wrong. This is just my impression based on having taken the courses.
Yeah. I just wonder, like, when we were like, because I mean, obviously, logic didn't start in English. So like when we translated education and logic to the English language, I wonder if like we were like, okay, this is what these mean, so this is why we're translating them. Then the words evolves, but obviously the words we use in logic can't evolve, otherwise all of knowledge is meaningless, because you're like, what do you mean by or? You know, like that. All of a sudden we have to decode all of these. You know, it basically it's like if math evolved. You know, all prior math becomes useless. So yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, if it was like that and then it evolved. But of course, then again, English is not a single language.
Right.
It's spoken a lot of different ways in a lot of different places.
Even when you think about it too, like. The definition of valid is it's used in a logical construct, right?
Yeah.
And then compare that to the way that I use it casually.
Right.
That's valid. That's logically coherent.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what valid means, is it's logically coherent, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to validate what you're saying and I say that that's valid, or if I say that's logically coherent, I'm sure there's a very, very large overlap to where those are effectively equal.
Yeah.
And there's the nuances of, no, I don't just mean it's logically coherent. I also mean it's right.
Yeah.
And then I will still commonly use the word valid. Like,
interesting.
But then I do use it loosely, because there's plenty of times where like people will be talking, I'm like, that's valid, and like I can see how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I see how you got there.
Right.
Or
exactly.
talking about emotions, right? Oh, you feel that. Yeah, that's valid. It's valid that you feel that way. Should you feel that way? Of course not. Almost ever, because we like. But
someone goes to Devin. I feel this way anyway. I feel anything. I understand, but you shouldn't be. You should be feeling something else. What? Anything else, just not what you're currently feeling.
I feel so mad. I'm so angry. Should I be? I'm so upset. That's valid.
Yeah.
So I should be upset. I did not say that.
Right. No, exactly. No.
Hold on.
Yeah. I didn't say you should be. I said that you are.
Yeah, I said I understand why you're upset. That's valid. And I guess I could even be more shallow. Like, no, like I said that's valid because it sounds like I'm agreeing with you, but just based on empirical data, I knew you were upset. So.
And then they slap you in the face because they're angry, and they storm off, and then I don't know what they do. Right. Then they come down.
This is like ice cream. This is like when a logician tries to have a relationship. They're like, they learn to say things in ways that are like ambiguous to them because they sound good to the other person. Yeah. I had this joke. I said this to Grace once. I was like, if a logician were to try to write a poem, it goes, your beauty shines, well, I guess like the moon, because I can't look at the sun. And I can't take my eyes off you, but the moon reflects light. So your beauty, it shines like the moon. And then they just keep going and they just keep like taking down the compliment.
Right, exactly. being like, yeah, no, actually that isn't accurate. Like you smell like roses. Well, roses actually don't like smell that strongly. So I just think you have like a really weak scent about you.
Like you smell more like you took the abstract of roses and concentrated it. That's where you smell like a bunch of potent rose.
Oh, you smell like rose concentrate.
And so the funny thing
and
is,
vanilla extract.
The funny thing is, this is what it sounds like in real time as the logician thinks through it.
Right, exactly.
But the ending poetry is, your beauty shines like the moon. You smell like rose extract.
Yeah, exactly,
like,
right?
And it reads like a grocery list of like backhanded compliments.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with any kind of nerdy, like it's the same thing with any kind of very specialized language to a specific industry. Like you take any kind of nerdy talk, like with D&D, I do this all the time, where someone will be like, I'll like stumble or something. I'm like, oh, I'm not in my preferred terrain, and like that means a very specific thing in D&D, and it has numbers associated with it in D&D. But to someone on the outside, like your preferred terrain, no, you don't like concrete. Like right, so like that's one of my favorites.
You're like, no, I'm just saying that in general, if I was in my preferred terrain, I wouldn't have to do an acrobatics check every time I took a step. Like
exactly. It was a Tumblr post of me like I get home, I escape to my room and I lay down and all of a sudden I just the whole world just feels better. And someone's like, yeah, because you're in your preferred terrain. Like my bedroom is my preferred terrain. But yeah, it's really funny. Like just using like D&D talk, it's funny to me. Because it's literally role playing with numbers associated with it, so it's applicable to everything you do in life. You know, if you're trying to buy an apple, you're like, can I roll a survival check on this?
Well, it's like imagine you're like you're trying to sell door to door.
Right, yeah.
Like just like I want this to happen one day. I want this to happen one day where I'm literally like trying to sell something to somebody, and the response is roll for a persuasion check.
And you roll a nat 20, they're like, cool, I buy it.
Yes. Actually, if someone actually told me that, I would want the roll to dictate whether or not they buy.
Next time I get like evangelist or someone like knocking at my door, I'm just gonna take out a d20 and go roll for persuasion. Right? I'm like they roll like a 3. I'm like, nope, I don't care what you have to say.
Right.
Take it back.
Right.
Then I'm like, oh, the other one. I'm like, no, the other one can roll because it'll come in pairs, right? He rolls like a nat 20. I'm like, he talks to me. I don't like you.
No, roll for persuasion. Roll a 3. Okay. Doesn't matter what you say. I'm gonna leave this conversation believing that you believe that the world is made out of Swiss cheese. Roll for persuasion. Nat 20. Okay. Your word is gospel. Go.
Oh, and that's it. I mean, talking about we were gonna at one point we were gonna talk about what a nat 20 means, right?
I don't know.
You said you want to talk about it.
Oh, but yeah, okay. What was my
What does nat 20 mean? Honestly, I'm saving my topic for next week. Let's talk about this.
Let's see if I can remember this. I had what a nat 20, what a nat 1 actually means in real life.
Yeah, what it means. Yeah.
So I'll start with a nat 1, okay? Because you can roll anything, right? Like
right.
You have a 5% chance of rolling anything.
Right.
So there is a 90%
It doesn't feel
chance,
like that, but
right. So there's a 90% chance that you roll something there's a 95% chance you roll something better than a nat 1. There's 90% chance that you roll somewhere between 1 and 20 and that you don't roll 1 or 20, right?
Right.
So if you roll a nat 1, the universe is literally telling you you're part of the bottom 5% people on the planet. And like you're pathetic and you should give up and quit. Like
what? No, wait. That just did like the secrets uncovered in my brain. Literally, that's what played. Like my brain just opened a new window. I feel like I just unlocked a new level in my brain. When DMing, there's a huge discussion. And if you don't know about anything about D&D, you're gonna hate the next 10 minutes.
Just really quick. I asked Luke today if he had his topic figured out already. And had he told me no, I was going to ask him if he just wanted to talk about D&D.
No, I was gonna talk about
So-
D&D, but I couldn't think about like things that would actually be interesting about it.
You want to talk about D&D anyway? This is so perfect.
This
is
is
like
perfect.
the universe conspiring.
Well, funny
We're
thing
talking
is,
about
too,
D&D on episode 17.
we were talking about Apple earlier, and I was gonna actually my topic was relating to Apple, but we'll save that. So spicy details for next week. So there's a huge discussion about what does a nat 1 and a nat 20 mean. So the best roll and the worst roll, right? What does that actually mean? Because some people say automatic failure, automatic win. And then the majority of the camp will say, no, just because you roll a 20 doesn't mean that you get to do whatever you want. And just because you roll a 1 doesn't mean that you stab yourself and die. They're like, there's gradation to it. And I think that is the perfect way of seeing. Like if I roll, let's say I roll an animal handling check, right?
Okay.
On a horse. I'm trying to mount a horse, right? And I roll a nat 1. That means that the bottom 5% of people, I act like them when handling a horse, which means I'm going to be terrified, try to grab at it, then get hit by the horse, and it's going to kick me.
Yeah.
Like the bottom 5%, right? That's how I act, right? And I would say also the bottom 5% of horses, like because there's something interacting with that. Whereas if I roll a nat 20, then I'm in the top 5% of horse riders.
Right. You can make a career out of teaching people how to ride horses.
Exactly. And I can ride professionally. I can do pretty much anything a horse can do. I can do with this horse, right? That's a really fascinating way of looking at it. And just averaging and basically being like, okay, the average of the top 5% or average of the bottom 5%. And then even carrying that through all the numbers. You roll a 10, you're like, it's completely, because I tend when I DM
10 or an 11, then you're perfectly average.
Right.
Right.
And when I DM, I tend, well, I mean, typically a DM will have something assigned to it, right? So say in their own mind or in their notes to say if you roll a 12 or higher, then you succeed, right? And I love the idea of instead of playing it with the gradation, instead of pass or fail, basically assigning the grade and being like, oh, you rolled a 9. It's not a fail, but you just did it a little worse than average. So like you try to pick the lock worse than average. The average person cannot pick a lock. And you did it worse than the average person. So you try and your lock pick gets stuck.
Right.
Because the average person would probably have that happen.
Right. And most DMs, if you roll anything like a 3, they're going to treat that like bottom 1%.
Right, exactly.
And then if you roll a nat 1, they're gonna say you killed yourself while picking the lock. Like,
which I hate I hate DMs that do that. And they're like I roll it. Like if I roll a critical on like shooting an arrow, they're like, oh, the arrow misfires and it shoots you instead. I'm like, that's not physically possible. That's not how bows work.
Right. No, I mean so let's say you're shooting a bow and arrow, right?
Right.
And you're shooting, let's say 30 feet.
Right.
And there's probably somebody in your campaign who's really close to your opponent.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to shoot past them and you roll a nat 1. You don't hit either of them.
Yeah.
Because the average, like the bottom 5% of people are not hitting anywhere near that area.
Exactly. And I think that's so perfect because
and I think
if
you roll like a 6, you're probably going to end up hitting your friend.
Because I think they treat it like the bottom 5% of like the worst thing possible. It's like the
right.
worst.
It's like,
so
what's the
they
worst
treat
thing I can come up with?
They treat it, they treat it like the most unlucky thing. Where in reality, no, you failed at your task. Your task was to shoot. So this happened in the campaign that I was doing, and he was a first-time DM. He planned so hard. Like he's a sweet guy. Like I have nothing. Like his DM style was fine, but this guy who on our team kept on rolling like 5s and 6s, and I was next to the enemy. So he's like, "Well, your knife hits him." So I kept on getting hit by my teammate because he kept on throwing knives and rolling too low.
So that roll, throwing a knife, I might do the same thing.
Yeah, well, okay, a 5, okay, in a 5 or 6, yes. But I think at one point, he's a rogue, so he's either rolling like 30s or he's rolling nat 1s. Like, there's no in between when it comes to rogues. They're the most insane rolls. The guy didn't roll. I don't think he rolled under a 20, except he rolled nat 1s. Which is it's just.
So
like
was
24.
it a nat 1 that ended up being a 6?
I think so. If I remember correctly,
okay. I might Yeah, that's the hardest one too. Is
Yeah.
when you're actually thinking about like what are their modifiers.
Yeah.
And
No. Yeah, of course, the
then
modifiers
it's
and
like,
then the actual skill set that comes in, and that's a lot to handle when you're talking when you're going through combat.
So
You
it's
don't want
like
to take forever. But
so and it's like you almost have to adjust to like, okay, so you're in the bottom 5% of rogues.
exactly.
You're not. So you got in that one, you get a 6. You're bottom 5% of rogues. You're not the bottom 5% of people.
Exactly.
So you're not going to do as bad as most people. You're going to do as bad as like the worst rogues.
Well, you're talking you're
right?
talking
and
about someone
it just gets hard.
who's proficient with that weapon too. So you're talking if you entered a competition with the top, if you entered the Olympics, you're last. That's the level of skill, which is completely different from being the worst person ever to throw a knife.
Yep.
Right? Whereas if it's something I'm not proficient in, if it's something like my favorite character is a bard. I love my bard so much. Right. He's a halfling bard.
Maybe in that one for that rogue, maybe if he's getting a 6. Maybe in that one is like it whizzes over his head.
Yeah.
It goes between his legs.
Right, exactly.
Like you're missing.
Right.
But you're not missing so terribly that like we don't know who you were aiming for.
Exactly.
Right.
Because if you talk about expert marksmen, they miss very narrowly. Like very narrowly.
And even compare that to the example like the campaign that I'm playing right now, I'm a bard.
Yeah.
And
we're both bards. Is anyone surprised?
I'm a bard and I've done everything I can to make sure that my bard cannot fight, basically.
Yeah.
Like he's got some pretty decent spells in his back pocket, and everything is tried to make like his goal in life is to like win every issue that ever comes up by talking to people. That's his goal in life. Yeah. So when he pulls out a weapon, the weapon he pulls out is a crossbow. He was backstory. He's been excommunicated from a church for teaching sacrilegious beliefs.
Right.
So he's clergy and a bard.
Yeah.
And he's a half elf, so he has some natural ability, but like for the most part, like this guy's no marksman.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know what to do with a crossbow. That's why he has a crossbow, not a bow. Like,
yeah.
And he's just like trying to stay out of the line of fire and basically running away with this crossbow. If he rolls a nat 1, if he's aiming directly in front of him, he should hit something that's like 30 feet to the right.
Yeah.
Because like depending on distance, but he should just be like way off.
Right.
Right. And maybe he wouldn't have hitting a team member, but only if there's a team member that's like 30 feet to my right.
Exactly. Yeah.
He'd have to be like really, really good. Like for him, he'd probably have to roll like a 12 to hit the team member that's right next to the opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like not a way I've ever seen any DM do it. So I don't even know how the party would handle that.
The problem is that I feel like that would be the most accurate way to play, but the party would hate it. Yeah.
The party would reject it. They'd tell us no.
Yeah, you'd have to set that up in the beginning. Be like, this is how the rolls work.
Yeah, have like a meeting before you start the game.
Yeah, being like, this is how we're gonna try
and then be consistent.
Right? Exactly, and that's the hardest. So that's the hardest part of DMing. Is being consistent with if someone rolls because your party knows if someone rolls a 12 to persuade somebody and it fails and then someone else rolls a 12 and it wins later, there better be a reason. Otherwise the party's like, that failed last time, why did that fail?
Right.
Like I should have, because so much in D&D is dependent on the rolls that you can have better armor, you can have better like you can have so much if you roll better. Like I own a business, I'm not going to say what type of business, in my campaign because I rolled well and intimidated the owner to give me the business. Nice. If I hadn't rolled well, I would not own that. And now I'm making money. I'm a business owner. I'm bringing down the economy of the entire town. Like, all because I rolled well.
This was like, so as a good example, actually, of a DM that did a good job. There's a campaign I was playing where there were 2 enemies that we were dealing with. One was an ogre, and one was like a gnome. I think they were a gnome. Right. But they were a sorcerer. And when I first walked up to them, we started a conversation, and I immediately tried to cast a spell on them. Just a charm person, right? And I rolled like a 16 or something. Yeah. And they flicked it off. And everyone's like, what the? And so after the game ends, because like it wasn't a big deal because the gnome sorcerer ended up actually not being in combat. They just sat back and watched more than anything. So and because of their plot point and what he was doing with them, we asked him after the camp or after that battle, after we had gone. He was like, "No, actually, I have it in my notes. The only way you can do anything magically to the gnome is if you roll a nat 20."
Oh, yeah.
He's like, because the gnome is supposed to be like probably the most amazing sorcerer you're ever going to.
Yeah, you're not gonna easily charm him.
You're not gonna charm him. Like you gotta roll a nat 20 to do anything, and even rolling nat 20s, it doesn't mean that you're gonna get what you want. It means it's gonna affect him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and honestly,
well, at least they're fair with that.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that I really love about D&D. So the thing I love about D&D is role playing. Battle, like combat, to me is boring.
Same.
I don't care how high of a level we are. You have your most powerful spell. You use it until the thing dies. Then you use your second most powerful spell or attack until that thing dies.
Wants to do the combat too, and I don't.
I don't understand. For me, role playing is so much fun.
We need to play. We need to do a campaign together.
I know, right?
We can be the 10% that convinces the group that combat isn't worth having.
Dude, we could. No, we can easily. I mean, the group isn't going to be 20 people.
Right.
We'll be like 50 to 40% of the group. We could easily just be like, we don't really want to do much combat, and everyone will kind of go, "Oh, really? Why?" We're like, it's just kind of boring, right? And then right, you start being like, it's really boring, right? You just kind of wait and take turns, and then you just do your most powerful move because you want to kill them. And then once you're done with that,
sometimes you ad-lib a line if you feel like you did something cool.
Yeah. Then if you roll a nat 20, oh yeah, I rolled a nat 20, but like that just means you killed. That just means you get a critical hit and you do more damage. Whereas in role playing, if you roll a nat 20, like you do something incredible in the world, and you can have so much more gain.
Right.
And you basically just sell it that way, and then everyone's like, yeah, I guess so. And like, cool, we're just gonna do like mostly role playing and combat. And if I'm role playing and I get engaged in a combat with somebody, then I engage in combat with them.
And that's the way that.
But it's not a dungeon.
Right. That's the way the combat should be constructed, in my opinion. And I've seen DMs do this well, where we have a conversation with somebody that doesn't go well.
Exactly.
So they call their guards.
And now I'm gonna beat them up.
Right. And it's like, oh snap!
Oh,
now I got
we did that to this poor shopkeeper. Our rogue stole all of his money, and he's like, everyone who stole our money, and we escaped. Like he and I, we took the money and we booked it. We got out, but then the rest of our party's trying to calm him down because he was obviously a plot point. And we kind of like meta games, like we kind of knew that it was the DM's first time ever, so we're trying to be really nice to him, and so they're trying to like calm down the guy, but they kept on rolling so badly that the DM's like, he takes out his sword and he's like, get out or I'm gonna start cutting you, and then everyone's like, wait, really? And the DM's like, what do you expect me to do? This is a character. I'm not in control. He's their own character.
You rolled a nat 1.
Yeah. And then
you were trying to calm someone down and you roll a nat 1. The correct response is you offended them more.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what happened there.
Exactly. Like, yeah, the bottom 5% of people trying to calm somebody down. Imagine how how
that sounds
awful.
Something to the effect of rub some dirt in it. Get over it. What's your problem? What are you doing?
Yeah, right.
Stop. What are you complaining about? Really?
Yeah. Like, wow, you're whining. You're wow, right. Wow.
I used to know someone like you, and I don't associate with them anymore because they're stupid. Like, it's like you just like that. That's the bottom 5% trying to calm someone
just
down.
No tact, like no knowledge of like understanding human emotion at all. Like that's the bottom 5%. So yeah, that's the thing. So that's what I really love. And the thing that I think the special thing for me, I was thinking about this, is the fact that D&D has built-in character creation. So I'm running a campaign for my siblings right now. And I was like, cool, I want to create some characters. I need to create some bad guys, for them. I clicked the buttons on the online character generator. I'm like, okay, cool. They're going to be this race. They're going to be this class. They're going to have these weapons. They're going to have, I'm like, okay, now they have the backstory. Now I can embellish a little bit, right? But the whole process of building a character and their strengths and weaknesses is all pretty much built for you. And you just need to fill in the gaps and be creative with it, which I love, because versus writing like a fictional novel, creating a character from scratch with nothing. I think that's just so much harder. And then of course, then as a DM, you get to role play various characters. You get to, each character all of a sudden has a life of their own, and they start having feelings, and they start reacting to things in certain ways. And everything in D&D has life, and I just think that's so cool. It just holds a really special place in my heart. I would love like an RP like game where it's basically just okay. You're in this like you're not gathering for a quest. You're not assigned to protect this thing. You simply meet at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start talking, right? And that's it. And the DM, all the DM is really is for doing checks, for being like, okay, well, we go here. Okay, you go here. Okay, cool. There's this character here. That requires a DM to be fast on their feet and to know, like...
We probably want Brennan to DM this.
Dude, I would pay him to DM easily. I would probably...
Hey, Brennan from College Humor, if you're checking out our podcast, we want you to DM a campaign for us.
If I had the money...
And anyone else who's listening, if you know him personally...
I would.
You never know. You don't know if you don't ask.
True. That is very true. But I would, if I had the money, I would easily pay him $10,000 to DM for a weekend, and be like, "Look, this is going to be."
You just got an offer from Luke Maxwell. He's gonna pay you $10,000 to DM for a weekend
when I have the money.
As soon as you say yes. But why use the money the same day?
But could you imagine? You go on a cabin in the woods. Or ideally my own private island. But you go to a cabin in the woods, you sit down, you're like, okay, cool. We got food, we got snacks, we got everything that we need. We're going to sit down, we're going to play D&D for 2 days straight. Or 3 days straight, right? That sounds like so much fun. And then basically just roll, and the great thing, because I think the problem, and that's what I don't understand when it comes to the combat. I'm like, that's the most boring part of D&D. You can do anything. Like you can cause a riot. You can overthrow an entire kingdom if you decide that you want to do it, right? Because it's possible. And the fact that you can learn spells and grow and advance, I'm like, combat's the most like boring thing you could possibly do with actual magic, right? And so that's why it's just it's so much fun.
I mean, that's actually a pretty fair point. Imagine, so I had a campaign recently where the ogre I mentioned, I used hold person to hold him until everyone else killed him.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that same spell as a negotiation tactic.
Yeah.
Hold person. I can hold you for up to 10 minutes, and you can't stop anybody in my party from doing anything that we want.
Yeah.
Or
you go into a bar, boom, hold the barkeep. So we could destroy this entire place. You couldn't stop us. We'll escape before you're free, or you give us all our drinks for free. What's it gonna be?
Just for tonight.
Just for tonight. Yeah, just for tonight. Then you do it again. Then you do it again. And then so he's like,
you were traveling probably anyway. So
right, exactly. Exactly.
I know, and that's the mayor's office.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about D&D. You can travel places, and there's magic to teleport places. Like, it's like that's what I just don't get. I'm like, if any of you had actual magic, the last thing on your mind would be going to defeat like monsters. The first thing you would ever do is figure out how to benefit yourself in the real world. Right. And then maybe once you got bored, you one punch man it and you just be like, okay, I guess I gotta fight monsters. I guess that's not accurate. That's not an accurate comparison.
No, but what's the new movie that came out that's magic exists but no one cares about it anymore?
Oh, Onward.
Disney. Onward. Okay. It's like that kind of environment. Like, oh, you have all these amazing powers and you're living in a normal world. What would you do? And every once in a blue moon, you might think, okay, that shiny object does sound cool. Right. Let's go kill a dragon.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the most part, it's like, no, like, we know it's there, but like...
Yeah, why don't I just,
I got stuff going on.
Right. Like, I could like, transform my house into a mansion using an expand spell.
Right.
Like, I'd rather do that than risk my life.
It's like, okay, but like, what's that thing do? Because if all that thing does is the equivalent of money, like
Yeah.
I can get money without risking my life.
Yeah. Exactly. What's the point?
And I think
Oh,
actually a big barrier to that gameplay too that I didn't even think about is it actually requires the DM to do a pretty good job world building.
yeah.
I mean the DM that I'm in the campaign that I'm in right now, like there is no world. We don't have like
Right.
there's no understanding of any interconnection of
It's
any.
just one shots, one
Yeah.
after another. Yeah.
Yep. And it's just like
On your
and
magical ghost ship.
We could yeah right. We could create a world.
Devin loves his magical ghost ship.
We have a magical flying ghost ship. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that is something that like was not predicted. It was not part of the quest. It was not what we were going to win. If that was the treasure itself, I would do a quest. And be like, okay,
Yeah.
so you know how like you could get like this infinity stone,
No.
right? Like, okay, that's cool. And here you could actually get a wish. Okay,
Right.
that's cool. And then this campaign has a flying ghost ship. Oh, let's do the flying ghost ship.
Yep.
You know you can wish for a flying ghost ship. No.
I
Flying
want-
ghost ship.
I want to win it.
I want to earn it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest barrier too, when it comes to DMing, is getting your characters to care about the missions itself, and not just going along with them because it's the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mean, I know it's a new DM thing. Like that's what bless his soul. He like, okay, you're all here. Like, cool. And we're just kind of like waiting for him to tell us what to do, like where to go. He's like, you can just explore. We're like, okay, but like, why are we here? Like, we don't know
Right.
why we're in this town.
Right.
Then he's like, oh, it's because of this guy, you know. I'm like, oh, we do? Oh. And then apparently the guy's dead. I'm like, oh, too bad.
Right.
By the way, my last character, I ever since my bard, every time we do a one shot, I try to make a really like just off the wall like fun character. My first one that I made, well, after the bard, was a warlock who was a rock musician at a time where the guitar didn't even exist. So the DM's like, fine, it's a one shot, so I'll just let you teleport from like the future. And like he's like, you're not from the future, but like you're from enough time to where the guitar had been invented. So I'm playing my guitar and none of my party knows what it is. And all of my spells are around pyrotechnics, around boosting my voice, around manipulating audiences, and all of them because we're like level like 8 or something. So like all of these massive spells all around producing a great rock show. And I was like a punk, you know, like the punk hair, like I was just a punk warlock, and it was so cool, right?
There's a person in our campaign, a character in our campaign, who is 3 kobolds stacked on top of each other in a trench coat.
Yeah.
That is still the best
It's
character I've seen.
It's just genius. Like the gameplay on that is just the creativity of what you can do with that is unlimited.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
And then, so then the other funny one too is that character's a monk.
Yeah.
So I mean that's actually one where he's very entertaining in combat
Mhm.
because it's like okay, the 2 bottom ones throw the top one. Like,
Yeah.
and just like crazy ridiculous stuff, and it's like
Right.
okay.
Right.
And then the best thing about the character too is that the character is either insane or lying, but you don't know which.
Yeah.
Because from everything the character says, no, he's one person. Like,
Yeah.
and they'll just like have in-game conversations about this, where like, can one of you go grab whatever? It's like there's just me. Like, and he's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
just,
right.
like, nuanced stuff like that. And he's like,
You played the con so long that you stopped believing it was a con.
Right.
But then my other character, which I'm actually gonna resurrect for this next one shot, I'm gonna kind of keep it and just change him a little bit. It's a
you can't
mysterious.
resurrect him. If he's dead, he's dead.
No,
Never
it's
mind.
not. It's actually it's a mysterious figure. No one knows. I mean, it's not a him or her. No one knows anything about this figure, right? This character, right? Except that they're a detective for criminals. So if a criminal has something done to them, they contact this person, and then this person finds and basically punishes, like appropriately, like punishes the person who committed the crime against the criminal. And funny enough, so Clara, she happened to be at that one shot, and as a testament to how well we work, I was like very stealthily like talking about my character, like not really revealing anything. And then she texts me. She's like, "Wait a minute. I think you know me." I'm like, "Why would I know you?" And she's like, "Wait, what are you?" I said, "Okay, fine. I'm a detective for criminals." She's like, "I'm a criminal." And so we had our own little pact to where we knew each other, and like I had helped her out in the past. And so like we're separate from our party because like our party's annoying. We don't like these characters. So we started doing our own little things. And then she died.
Serves her right. Criminal behavior never works out. You know?
But I'm gonna resurrect because we're doing another one shot, and and we're level 8, so I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do the same character just as a level 8.
Have you seen the Hellboy movies?
No, I have not. I know of them, but I have not.
I want a D&D game in that world. That's all.
What is it?
I mean, the world isn't. It's very much of like I mean D&D is basically built on like Tolkien's world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Hellboy just did a good job of merging that with actual modern day cities.
Okay.
So like it's both these things kind of exist. There's elves, there's magical creatures, there's magic, and it's still exists today, and it's just kind of hidden, and most people aren't aware of it.
Interesting.
And so they do a good job of bridging the gap and making creative characters. And
Mm-hmm.
That's the world I want to have a campaign in. Where it's like...
Yeah.
And actually in that campaign, I would literally just want to be a human who started off completely unaware. And just like...
and then learn. Yeah.
Like throw me into it and see how I handle, and I'll probably die soon because I wasn't ready for this.
Yeah.
And if I don't die, then I become like Star-Lord.
Yeah.
Lucky and... like always wins but never should. Like
right. That would be funny. Yeah. I am a fan of characters who have magical abilities but don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like things just kind of luck around them. There's a couple of examples in fantasy of that, but like one thing that always whenever I think of luck, I always think of this book series called the Devin, save me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wait. I want to say.
Dead space. Dead.
I want to say
dead air.
I want to say the Phantom Toll Booth, but that's a kid's book, which I also enjoy a lot.
It's okay. Just give them a ton of dead air. It's okay.
Wheel Time. There's a book series called Wheel Time. It is the longest book series you'll ever read. Not because it has the most books, because it feels like it has the most books. It's a massive fantasy, and anyone who reads fantasy knows of the Wheel of Time. I'll never read it again because the one book, the joke is that if you skip it, you won't realize you skipped it because literally nothing happens. Like it's 800 pages of just nothing. Yeah, it's literally just a filler book.
So it's like the book equivalent of One Piece.
Yeah.
Boo.
So yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, so the author died before he could finish it. And Brandon Sanderson brought in, who's my favorite author of all time. He was brought in to finish it, and there was supposed to be one book left, and it still took him 3 books. And you notice, as soon as you start his books, the books fly by. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, no, I'm not used to things happening this fast. And so it still took him 3 books. And like the joke is, like, if the author hadn't died, the book series would still be going on till this day. And he finished it years ago. But the main character, he's, you know, like the typical. It's not the chosen one, I guess. That's the simplest way to describe him. You know, he has, you know, the power. He has, you know, very certain powers.
He's
he can
the
do certain
special.
things. Yeah, he's a special, right? But a factor of him being special is that luck bends around him, and so he'll walk into
character off of Deadpool 2.
Oh yeah, he is. He actually well, except it balances out. So he'll walk into a town, and all of a sudden, people just start dying by tripping.
No, that's the same thing that happens for her too. Like
Yeah.
her being lucky is equivalent to
To
other
someone
people
else
being
being
unlucky.
yeah, but he's not lucky. It's just that luck itself bends around him, and so like he'll be like walking by, like there's this one. It's like the one part of the book I actually remember is like someone like dropped a vase and it landed on the only spot it could possibly land on to not break, and then bounce around. Everyone kind of looks at it, right? And then that's when, and it's part of his character development where he's like, I need to like stay away from everybody because I don't know, because it'll balance out. If something good happens to this person, something terrible is gonna happen to someone over there, right? So it's basically around like his character basically like separating himself from other people because it's basically such a huge curse to be around him, amongst other reasons of power and things like that. But really interesting magic system. Like women like weave the different like aspects of the universe together to create different things. So there's instructional, like there's actual real instructions being like, yeah, you take this like aspect of the universe, like let's say like I forget what they are. I think there's 5 different ones. And then you create this pattern. Then you take this other aspect and you weave it into this pattern. You weave them together. That's how you create like a dimensional door that you can walk through, right? Whereas men, I forget, how do men do magic? I think it's just literally just like by like brute will of like summoning things. It's just an interesting series for a lot of different reasons. And then there's people who can like walk in dreams. And basically, there's a Freddy. What's his name? The guy who goes in Freddy Krueger. Yeah, he's basically Freddy Krueger. Like there's a whole dream world. It's a fascinating series. It's very large, very complex. But I think about it a lot when I play D&D because there's a lot of aspects to it. That
Did you
just
read the
remind
entire
me.
series?
I did. It took me a long time. It took me, I think, at least 6 months to get through it. There's 13 books. Each one of them is 800 to like 1,200 pages. And it's some of them are just long. And you're like, stop describing things and just get on with it. Just give me some stuff, not just people just sitting there talking and describing what they're wearing, because everyone wears something different every single time someone's talking together. But anyway, Devin, have we overthought this?
We overthought something.
We're not exactly sure what, but
I think we solved D&D though, so this is a pretty big.
no,
win
don't
for
say
our
that.
podcast.
No, don't say that. I want to talk about D&D again, though.
We can talk about D&D again.
Okay, good.
I think we just solved like how we should deal with nat 20s and nat 1s.
We did. That's true.
Yeah.
We decided how
So
we could deal with roles.
That's a pretty good win for this podcast.
It is a pretty good win. I mean, we actually
And
did something
now-
constructive.
Right, now we have an episode that we can send people to, and we're going to tell them the timestamp, like, before they're allowed to play D&D with us.
Exactly.
It's like,
I
this
love
is
that.
how, yes.
Just gatekeep people from playing D&D with me.
Mhm.
Even if like it's their party and I'm joining, I'm still going to send them this podcast
Yep.
and go,
Yep.
you have to listen to this all 45
Yep.
minutes, 47
Every
minutes.
single time someone's like, hey, do you want to join our campaign? Oh, yeah, I'd love to if every member of the party is willing to watch this.
Yeah. And understand it and then play by these rules.
Yep. And then you get there and there's one person who did it. Be like, don't worry, we can watch it together.
Do an MLM pitch. Basically just an MLM pitch. But for D&D.
Yep.
Dude,
Like, no,
my
we can do
character
it together. We'll do it now.
Dude, my character in D&D needs to create an MLM. Dude, it's genius. I can make essential oils in D&D. Dude.
Do you want to create an MLM or just a true Ponzi?
I mean, honestly, I can just create a true Ponzi. Like, there's no laws stopping me.
Yeah. Just create a true
There's
Ponzi.
going to be a law invented to stop me, and I love the thought of that.
Yeah. It's like nothing that's illegal was illegal until somebody did it, and somebody else
Exactly.
said, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah, exactly. I'm like found a loophole. Yeah, basically, I mean, yeah, I don't even have to make it complicated. Just a true Ponzi scheme with me at
Yep.
the top of the pyramid.
Just keep telling people, you give me $1. 2 weeks from now, I'll give you $2. And
Exactly.
Everybody who gives you $1, you do the same thing. And
Exactly. And you just do that. Yeah. Dude.
look up Charles Ponzi and just do literally what he did.
Yeah, no, and that's how they became illegal.
Yep.
Is direct money. No, dude, I love the idea of starting the first MLM in our D&D world.
Do it.
Anyway, we don't have a good way to end this like always. So, Devin,
Luke.
I
You
was
know,
gonna,
we started this where I was Luke.
and I
you were
was
Devin.
wait. Who am I? Da-na-na.
Existential crisis.
Bum. Ba-na-na-na.
Is that our outro?
Da-da-da-da.
That okay? Are you still listening? Weirdo. This is the outro. This is the outro music. This isn't even good music. What are you doing?
I don't have. I wonder if it'll actually light up.